Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Mask with Suzanne Mau-Asam and Emma ten Veen, a podcast with honest conversations about work, presence, and the parts of ourselves we've been told to hide. Have you ever snapped at someone in a meeting? Or have you ever had that you wanted to say something and you just froze up and you just couldn't? And then afterwards you thought, why did I do that?
Yeah, or maybe you let a more talkative colleague take all the credit, even if the work was all yours. Yeah, it's that moment where you're like, wait, that's not how I wanted to show up. But it just happens and you couldn't control it.
Here's the thing. This is not your fault. These are automatic responses, which we call conditioned tendencies, and we all have them.
In today's episode, we are unpacking those automatic reactions, where they come from, how they show up in your body, and most importantly, how you can start shifting them. Because when you understand those automatic reactions, you can choose how to respond instead.
Welcome back to Beyond the Corporate Mask, the podcast powered by Doors Open Institute for Corporate Sociology. My name is Emma.
And I'm Susanna. And this episode is for everyone who's ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why did I just do that? I should have known better.
Yeah, and today is all about conditioned tendencies. These are the go-to ways in which we react when things feel threatening or overwhelming. And most of the time, they happen before we even realize it. And, that's kind of the point we're trying to make here. They're not really conscious choices.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes these reactions take over so fast that you're not even able to think about how you want to react. And speaking from our own experience, this is absolutely frustrating.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right in. So, Susanna, maybe you can tell me, what are your conditioned tendencies?
Yeah, so my conditioned tendency is either to become really angry, I want to fight, or I totally disappear. I make myself small, I fade into the background.
Right.
And why am I saying this is because what you see here is that you never have only one conditioned tendency. It always depends on the context or the situation, how you respond and how your automatic reactions show up.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because mine are also really different depending on the situation that I'm in. Sometimes I tend to get very upset and I'll start spiraling in negative thoughts. And other times I have the same thing as you just mentioned, where I want to disappear. I want to make myself very, very small so that no one can see me.
Yeah, and it's really good to be aware of those different responses in different situations, because conditioned tendencies are automatic reactions that show up when something feels uncomfortable or threatening or unsafe, especially in relational situations like family or where there is, for example, hierarchy in the room.
Right.
And conditioned tendencies is your nervous system's way of saying, okay, quick, get safe. And being safe looks different in every situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I really recognize that because for me, a personal example is that when I'm with friends and someone challenges my opinion on something or disagrees with something that I'm saying, when I'm with friends or with people that I'm very comfortable with, I won't shy away from getting defensive, and then I'll actually start to debate to defend my point, right? Yeah. But for example, when I'm with my parents, when they challenge my opinions and they go against something that I really believe in, I'll immediately make myself small and I'll just drop my opinion entirely Because
Yeah.
in that situation, from a safety perspective, it's better for me to just go along with whatever they say and to let things go, because I know it will turn, if I don't do that, it's going to turn into a
Yeah.
debate that I'm
Yeah.
never going to win.
Yeah. 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 And do you then also have afterwards that feeling of you might feel confused or even regret the way you showed up?
Absolutely. It's incredibly frustrating, because oftentimes these are topics that I do really have an opinion about,
Yeah.
and I will have the knowledge to actually talk back or start the discussion, but I just don't, and then I just completely drop everything that I stand for, just to feel better in the situation and feel that safety, and not have it go into a debate or conflict.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. And maybe we can talk about what you can actually do in those moments to
Yeah.
become more aware of your automatic responses. But also, maybe more importantly, is also to start or being able to start choosing how you want to react instead.
Right.
And maybe a small reality check, because if this is new to you, it will be really hard to catch these patterns in the moment, especially when you're feeling unsafe or under stress. So, yeah, I just want to give you the disclaimer because, yeah, that is something that you need to be aware of.
Yeah. You usually only recognize it afterwards, right? It's always in hindsight thinking, oh, why did I react that way? But
Yeah.
while you're in it,
Yeah.
it just happens.
Yeah, and when you're in it, it's difficult to see it.
Yeah.
And actually, awareness usually builds afterwards. So by reflecting on what happened, for example, you're in this moment, and again, you responded in a way that you did not want, but it grabbed you, and you had no control over it. But when you reflect on it, on what happened afterwards, you notice how you reacted, and by getting curious about why you reacted in that way, the more you do this, the more familiar you can become with your patterns, with your automated reactions. And over time, you will start to notice them sooner, even in the heat of the moment. And I think we all know of moments in the past, or maybe in the recent past, in which your automatic reactions came up. And I actually think if you want to learn how to respond in a different way, this is a good place to start. Go back to those moments. Look at what did I do there? What happened? How did you react? Why did you react in that way? Yeah, like I said, the more you do that, the more you become aware of it, even in the heat of the moment.
Well, I'm trying to think of some, and I think I know 10 already. So I think I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and maybe also something else that can help you, understand when these conditioned tendencies come up, is by looking at what your body does and at that moment, because in moments of stress, your brain starts to get hazy. But your body shows physical signs that you're uncomfortable.
Right.
Your shoulders could tense up, your breath could shorten, or maybe you clench your jaw, you clench your fist.
I do that. I do that.
Yeah.
My jaw is really my tail. It just tightens right up, and I always know. I notice it after it happened. I'm always like, why does my jaw hurt so much? And that's when I realized, oh, I've been clenching it because I was in that meeting where I felt uncomfortable and I was clenching it the whole time. And that's really when I realized, like, okay, something deeper is going on here.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're noticing there is that your nervous system is going into autopilot.
Right.
And well, probably some of us are familiar with the classic fight flight idea. There are actually four main patterns which we might slip into when we feel overwhelmed or when we feel unsafe.
Right.
And again, that is your nervous system trying to keep you safe. So the four patterns that we see here are avoid, you start avoiding, or you move toward,
Right.
or you freeze or collapse.
Right, I see, I see. And for me, I immediately recognize the move toward, or at least it resonates with me. So, for example, I get really, really uncomfortable around conflict, right?
Yeah.
Either between myself and someone else or between other people in the room. I get uncomfortable, and in those moments, I tend to immediately take on a mediator role and to kind of like I would try to force the
Yeah.
situation to come to some sort of consensus, try to
Yeah.
smooth things over as quickly as possible, even if it means stepping over my own needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say would that be a good example of a move toward response?
Yes, yes, that's a really good example.
Right.
Because move towards is exactly that. Trying to get your safety back by connecting, appeasing, or pleasing. And often this is something that you have learned, a learned response from your childhood or earlier experiences in your life. And it can be very effective socially, but
Right.
it's also draining if that's something you're doing constantly. And like you said, are also stepping over your own needs.
Yeah, yeah, and this is really that people pleasing tendency that a lot of people tend to have, and I'm one of those people who's a bit of a people pleaser, and we're often told to just stop doing that, just stop pleasing everybody, just focus on yourself, you know. But
Yeah.
it's really difficult sometimes, you know. It's not that easy to you cannot just stop doing it.
No, and
Yeah,
of course you understand that you want to stop it, but that
exactly.
is understanding, cognitive understanding.
Yeah,
And because at the end of the day, this tactic it's a really clever tactic from your nervous system, because your nervous system sees the pleasing, as a survival strategy.
yeah,
So it's not just about understanding it and about willpower. It's about what your system has learned. What is safe?
yeah.
What should I do to keep you safe? And the same goes for the other responses too.
Right. So, what about avoid? That one feels a little bit familiar too, to be honest. Can you tell me a little bit more about that one?
Yeah. So avoid is about turning away emotionally or physically. It might look like procrastination, distraction, withdrawing from conversations, or, for example, staying very rational. You want to really understand everything to avoid feeling too much. And this is a way the nervous system tries to stay safe by not engaging in what feels overwhelming. And I can give you a very good example I had recently. Recently, I had a difficult moment in my family that caused some friction. And well, the day after, that friction happened, there was really a big, uncomfortable discussion. But the day after it happened, I spoke up about how the situation made me uncomfortable, and that I did not feel good about it. And after having said that, and I stayed silent for a while, and nobody responded, and then someone said, "Hey, I wonder what the weather is going to be like today." So he completely changed the subject.
Incredible. I'm sorry. It's funny because I must say there have been times that I was guilty of doing that too. I have it because sometimes when I feel tension rise, for example, between two of my family members, I have a family that's filled with people that are very short fused. So sometimes when I feel that tension rise between two family members, for example, and I can just feel that they're about to get into a fight, and I don't like that conflict, right? So when I can feel that, I'll just say something off topic to try and dismantle the situation.
Yeah. But to be honest, it's like I said, it's a very clever way of your nervous system to keep you safe. So on one hand, you should not be too harsh on yourself and what did I do again? Because it's a very clever way to keep you safe. And also, by understanding this, you can maybe also understand why people respond in a certain way and have a little bit more compassion for them.
Yeah. Right. So going back to the different types of conditioned tendencies that we've discussed, right? So we've talked about move toward and we've talked about avoid, but you mentioned that there's also freeze and collapse.
Yeah.
Could you maybe tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah, of course. So freeze is a state where your system, so your nervous system, is still activated. But there is tension, there's alertness, but you cannot move. It's like holding your breath. You can think of it as a deer caught in the headlights. We all have that picture probably, huh? That deer in the headlights, not moving at all. And yeah, remember how I just mentioned that recent conflict in my family? In that situation, someone was really yelling at me, and I completely felt overwhelmed. Even though I had also things I wanted to say, things I knew how to say, I could not get a single word out of myself. So I froze. And my mind went foggy. I couldn't form a clear sentence. So my body locked up. I felt my heart racing, my breath getting shallow, my jaw clencing. And yeah, in that moment, of course, I did not feel safe. And my system responded accordingly. And I froze. So that is freeze.
Right. So that makes sense. But then how would you say is that pattern different from collapse? You mentioned is the other one. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So collapse is not about reacting. It's really about shutting down. So one former coachee comes to mind. And yeah, she told me about her situation. And she had spent years working under high pressure, meeting deadlines. There was a lot of conflict in her organization, in her department. She had the tendency to ignore that. She was suppressing her emotions and constantly pushing through past her limits, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And this went on for years and years. And after a particularly intense conflict with her manager, something in her system gave out. She didn't react with anger or stress. No, she just went numb. Her body felt heavy, her mind foggy. She told me that she sat at her desk and just staring blankly, barely hearing the people around her. And then she went home because she felt, this is not okay. And she went home. And even at home, that feeling continued, like joyful things felt empty. She withdrew, basically disconnected from herself and others. And this is what collapse is about. Your nervous system is so overwhelmed that it just shuts down to protect itself. It's really survival.
Right. So collapse is really like a complete shutdown. Yeah. Where freeze, you're more like just stuck in the moment with your high breath, contracted state, clenched muscles, clenched jaw. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's sum all of that up. So conditioned tendencies show up in stress, overwhelm, feelings of discomfort.
Yeah, discomfort, but also feelings of unsafety.
Right. And there are four main patterns, common patterns that we see in these conditioned tendencies, right? So in order to get familiar with our own conditioned tendencies, we need to reflect on how we've reacted in past situations, maybe analyze that behavior, understand what happens in our bodies in those situations, really feel where we tense up. But would you say that we also all have one go-to conditioned tendency pattern, kind of like a favorite one that we'll usually follow?
Well, yes and no. So indeed, one response might feel and be more familiar, more rehearsed. And That's, of course, why we call them conditioned tendencies. So
Right.
something that's, your maybe your go-to indeed.
Yeah, has been conditioned over the years.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But depending on the situation, we can experience one or more of these conditioned tendencies. So, and that can even happen sometimes even in the same day or in the same situation. So,
Okay.
in that situation with my family, first I had feelings of becoming angry, and then I froze. So here you can see that two of my conditioned tendencies showed up in one situation.
Right. Right. I think I may have experienced this as well in a past relationship. You see, my ex would do something that upset me. And then I tried to bring it up and talk about it and deal with it as a team. But then he would react very badly towards me bringing this up. So he would get angry at me for bringing something like this up. And I would completely freeze because he would start shouting at me. He would tell me off for bringing up something so trivial. And I would just completely freeze. And I couldn't think of anything to say. And I would sometimes even start doubting myself, like, okay, was I actually the villain for bringing this up?
Yeah.
And then I was in that conflict that we all know I don't like. So then in order to make things good again, I tried moving towards him. So I would actually start apologizing, even though I had brought something up that had frustrated me. But then I started apologizing, saying that it was stupid, saying it didn't matter. I just completely cast my own needs aside in order for the situation to be okay again. So I feel like I really shifted from that freeze to move towards.
Yeah. So here I think this is a perfect example of first of all how you see your own nervous system is trying to keep you safe, but also how these responses can show up one after the other. And it's also not like, I think we also need to understand you're being grabbed by it. Huh? It's not like we pick one and then we stay there. So your system was trying one route to safety, and when that didn't work, it shifted to another. So that's really your nervous system doing its job, trying to get you to safety.
Yeah.
And maybe also good to mention that in these moments, your cognitive brain has little to no role in it. It's really your nervous system, your body that is taking over.
Just completely taking control.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now, in an earlier episode, we've been talking about shaping stories. Right? These deep-rooted patterns that live within us, often shaped by early experiences. And I think this might be a good moment to pause for a second and zoom out a little bit and connect these two topics, because I can imagine that there are maybe some listeners here wondering, how is the shaping story different from these conditioned tendencies? I mean, aren't they kind of the same thing?
Yeah, that is actually really a good question. They're definitely connected. So first of all, they're connected, but they're not quite the same. So think of it this way. Your shaping story is really where the pattern began. For example, maybe as a child, you noticed that, for example, when one of your parents was upset or angry with you and you brought them a drawing, their mood changed. They felt better and they were all of a sudden nice to you. So that small moment taught you, if I please others during a conflict, things will feel safe again. And that is a move towards response.
Right.
So that's where it started. Or maybe, for example, to give you another example, when your parents argued, the only thing that stopped them was you started yelling to them. And that too becomes a lesson. In moments of stress, the way to feel in control is to explode. And these early experiences don't just pass, they shape how we respond under pressure later in life. And it really is the original imprint often very subtle or even forgotten. Huh? It's not something that you think about daily, probably.
No.
But that shaped you how you learn to stay safe.
Right. So it's really kind of like your origin story, right? And then the conditioned tendencies are how that story shows up in your day-to-day life, especially when you're experiencing a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So conditioned tendencies then are the repeated responses your body falls into. Maybe you collapse inward, or you people please, or you go into fix mode. So I think it's really good to understand. It begins with your shaping story. There you have learned what is important to what do you need to do to stay safe. But then when you repeat that, it becomes conditioned. So these responses, the conditioned tendencies, are not random. No, you have learned that they keep you safe. So you repeat them over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, and this actually brings us to another piece of theory I'd like to connect to this, and we call that the BBC triangle. BBC stands for biology, biography, and context. It's one of the frameworks that we use to help people understand why they respond in the way that they do. So, Susanna, how about you walk us through these three elements?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with biology. Biology is really your nervous system, the way how you are wired. And your nervous system is always scanning for safety. It wants to keep you safe, whether the danger is real or just feels real. So again, your nervous system wants to keep you safe. And then we have biography. So biography is really your life story, your shaping story, your upbringing, your culture, identity, experiences. For example, if you grew up in a household where speaking up got you in trouble, you might still hold back in meetings today.
Yeah.
And then we have context. This is the here and now. So where are you? In what situation are you in? And what in that specific situation, what do you feel that you need to do to keep you safe? So this context can be your workplace, the people in the room, certain power dynamics, hierarchy, for example, societal norms. So the same person might freeze in one environment when this person feels unsafe, but in the other environment moves towards. So the context is really determining how your conditioned tendencies show up.
Right. Right. So really a combination of these three factors shape your conditioned tendencies, right?
Yes. Yeah. And why we talk about this model, BBC, is easy to remember, is because it helps you understand why you show up in a certain way or why your conditioned tendencies show up and grab you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, your nervous system wants to keep you safe, right? That's always been the bottom line. And these conditioned tendencies, these automatic responses, once helped us to survive. That's why we developed them. But now they can get in the way of, for example, authentic leadership, creating real connection, or even just feeling grounded in who you are.
Yeah. And if you let them take over and grab you every time, in the end, it will also cost you something. In the past, it would have kept you safe, but now it can also cost you something.
Yeah. So, how do we actually shift these patterns, right? How do we move from automatic reaction to intentional response? How do we do that? Where do we even start?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think it's really important to realize that this is not your fault. Remember BBC, but it is your responsibility to do something with it. Because, like I said, in the end, it can cost you something. It can cost your own well being, but for example, also, the type of relationships that you're in. the quality of those relationships. So indeed, how do we shift this? We start by becoming aware and by noticing that you go into your conditioned tendency. And like I said in the beginning, it's not that easy, especially when you're in the heat of the moment. So, but you can train yourself to recognize and to notice your automatic responses. So think back to a moment in which you reacted in a way you did not want to react. Go back to that feeling and think about what happened. How did I feel? How did I respond? What did I feel in my body? And which conditioned tendency pattern did you show? And then when you understand what you do in those moments, and maybe it's not one moment that you can think of, but maybe there are a couple, because it's important to see the pattern, of course.
So really analyze your behavior, see how you've reacted in multiple situations that were tense. See if you can see the pattern and understand.
Exactly. And then questions help, like, okay, how did I react? How did I wanted to react instead? But especially also, what did I feel in my body? Where did I feel it? Did you feel any tension, etc.? And indeed, then analyze that. But once you become aware of that, then do a quick centering. So put your feet on the floor, hip width apart, unlock your knees, unclench your jaw, and then start breathing from your center. And remember, 2 inches below your belly button. And then try to make length and see if you can make width to really fill up the room. Feel your back. See, and then when you're in that centered state, see what is in front of you. And then ask yourself, how do I actually want to respond instead? And what do I need in order to be able to respond like that? And also, what is the shape of my body? Because when you're stressed, your body tends to contract. And while I'm saying that, I'm making myself small, like that is the contraction that I do. Then I make myself small, and you cannot see it now, but I clench my fist. So we tense up, we clench our muscles. And when your body stays, or if your body stays in this contracted state, it will be easier to fall back in your automatic response again. So this is exactly why we do the centering practice, to come out of that contracted state, in order to not be grabbed that easily and go into your automatic response.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, I always clench my jaw when I'm stressed. So once that jaw's clenched, I already know that's it, right? So that's actually what I should start recognizing. That should probably be the first signal that I'm about to fall into my automatic response again.
Yeah. And this is exactly where it starts. You become aware of this bodily reaction. And once you start noticing this tension in your jaw, one, you need to actively unclench, but indeed, it is also that signal, hey, pay attention. I can easily come now into this conditioned tendency, the automated response. And it's also good to know what your triggers are. So what triggers your conditioned tendency? What gives you stress? What makes you feel unsafe? And then also ask yourself the question, what can I do to create that safety? Are there any factors that can help you, that you can hold on to keep you centered in that moment? And then it will stop you from going into that automatic pattern. So being centered keeps you in the here and now, while you stay connected with the context, what is happening around you, but also with the people around you. Yeah, and maybe what is also important to mention here is that those 4 patterns we have discussed, avoid, freeze, move toward, and collapse, you can quite literally see those happen in your body because those are contractions. And staying centered means you come out of that contraction, you stay in the same place, not allowing yourself to go into one of these 4 patterns. You literally stay grounded and not in the contracted state, which means that you can choose what reaction you want to give.
Yeah. Because when you're really grounded like that and you're in the here and now, you'll also have the ability not to start doing those things with your body, like doing those clenching, locking your knees. When you're centered, you're really, in this calm, grounded state, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe also good to mention that being in the contracted state is a direct route to your conditioned tendency.
Right. Yeah. So here's what we want you to take away from today, right? So conditioned tendencies are automatic patterns that come up when you feel unsafe, overwhelmed, or stressed. They are patterns that your nervous system developed to really keep you safe, right? And they come from your biology, biography, and your current context. So they're not your fault, but they are your responsibility to do something with it, right? And very important to note here is that you cannot change them overnight. How badly we might want to be able to do that, we can't, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
We cannot change them just like that. But you can start by creating awareness and by noticing your patterns. And the centering practice is something that will help you not to go into one of those patterns when you're under a lot of stress. So it creates a sense of pause. And in this pause, you create choice. And from there, new responses will become available over time.
Yeah, and maybe to add to this, so 2 things. One, we will, in the show notes, we will put a link to the centering exercise that will help you to really get this centering exercise. And this week, try one simple step. When you feel your conditioned tendency or you stepped into your conditioned tendency again, name it. Say, oh, there's my freeze, or there's my move toward, or there's my avoiding. Name it to tame it.
Well, listeners, that's it for this episode. But today I want you to have a think about what is your conditioned tendency and what's the one small shift that you're ready to try this week.
And if this gave you something to think about, share it with a friend or your teammates.
Please subscribe to Beyond the Corporate Mask on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. And follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more tools, prompts, and reflection moments.
Leadership doesn't have to be exhausting. If you need to pause, reconnect with your body, and experience how embodied leadership can help you make clearer decisions, hold boundaries, and lead without hiding yourself, join us for the next edition of the Embodied Leadership Retreat. Details are in the show notes.
You've been listening to Beyond the Corporate Mask. Remember, your body has the answers. So let's start unpacking who you are and who you're ready to become.